Okay, so we're back from the break. We are on Facebook Live today. Go on to KHTS 1220 on Facebook. You can find us. It's exciting. It's our first time live. If you guys have been listening or if you just tuned in, we're talking about the physiology of flirting today. And if you'd like to give us a call, you have something to say about it, we are at 661-298-5487. That's 298-KHTS. So, Greg, during the break, Dr. Jenkins, he brought up the golden number. Is that what that was called?
Golden
like the
number, yes.
Symmetrical thing? Okay, so if you hadn't been tuning in before, this is in regards to facial symmetrical precision. When people's faces are symmetrical, people generally tend to be more attracted to you, and they have no idea why. They're just looking at something pretty that's symmetrical. And what Dr. Jenkins was mentioning at the first part of the show is that plastic surgeons now, this is what they're after, is that golden triangle on the face, where they have numbers that specifically align parts of your face, even your teeth, to this symmetrical perfection. And then he's brought up this. So what is this actual number, the golden number?
It's the number that if your eyes have to be a certain far apart. If they're not exactly, pardon?
The golden ratio. The golden ratio.
Yeah, it's Dr. Mark Quart. And they actually have videos that teach you how to put the makeup so your face matches. And if you look at the website about this, you'll see everything is little triangles. They're all little triangles of beauty.
Wow.
The distance from our nose to our eye, the distance from our upper lip to our nose. All these numbers have to match up. They have all kind of different diagrams on how to make yourself look more attractive. But mostly Hollywood does it for show business. But when it comes to attraction, people are attracted to more symmetric people.
I mean, I knew somebody that was obsessed with their nostrils, that one nostril they felt was always bigger than the other. So she actually had plastic surgery to get the nostrils completely symmetrical. And I think this comes down to the point that I wanted to make, which is, if nobody else sees that your nostrils are symmetrical except you, and it makes you happy, then go for it. Go for it.
The reason for plastic surgery is only one reason, and that's that you want it.
Yeah.
That's the most important reason.
So that you feel good.
Sometimes nuts they get too much surgery, but most people that want a surgery, three surgeries is fine.
Right. And why they go overboard is generally because they don't see
what you see on those botched
what they've become.
Shows where they've had 12 breast surgeries and 14 nose surgeries.
Right, and they have no nose left, but they don't see it. You get like this body distortion issue, or I should say like a facial, any kind of part of your body. It's a distortion issue at that point psychologically, because you don't see what you look like anymore. So, wow, that's like an amazing thing that there's an actual number that you can get. You can go into a plastic surgeon and say, I want this number, give this to me.
They'll actually, if you go to this company, they'll make a mask for you to show where it should be, so the plastic surgeon can help get it just the way you want it. Amazing.
And that's just like the research project that these students were doing a few years ago with those two pictures I told you about, where they said the guys were two like twins. That's really, it was the same guy, just one was computer generated to be symmetrical.
So the one that people chose were the ones that were more symmetrical, even though they were the same person.
Wow. Okay, we have to move on from symmetry because there's so many interesting reasons why we're attracted to each other, and I want to move on.
Don't forget, is that people can call in if you have questions. We're at 298-5487.
Yeah.
298-5487.
So this is all about us becoming bilingual in the real communication happening on a physiological level, because it's not just about when you're attracted to somebody. It's like my pheromones will be attracted to your pheromones. Why? Why would I walk into a bar, see this one guy out of 50, and I would want that person? It's not just because he's hot. It's not just because he looks like he has a good job. So what I've found in some of the research I've been doing is that we actually look for men that give off this feeling of being masculine, of being rugged. This is not a type issue. This is like something on a very subliminal level that
rugged,
continues to exist.
Like a
strong jawline.
Oh yeah.
These are actual research studies. Strong jawline, a beard. I actually love a beard. There are certain like elements about the man that will present a masculinity that women on a very subliminal level, regardless of your type, regardless of what color hair you like, regardless of his height. It's an essence he's giving off of this protector, of this provider. And this goes back to what you were saying anthropologically. When we study, human behavior and we study why we're attracted to people on this level, anthropologically, we're not that far out of the jungle from where we were back in caveman days, where the women would choose the man that they felt was not only the best provider, but also going to be in the genetic pool the best fit for them, that was going to give offspring, that was going to be strong. When you have different genetics, it actually provides a stronger immune system for your child. So it makes sense on a sociological level now when you're looking at it in today's world. When you have people that are too close, it's not to say that those kids are not healthy, but it's nice to have a mix. And I think that's part of what attracts us to these mates, these potential mates. It's all on a chemical level. It doesn't even have anything to do with your mind. Doesn't that fascinate you? Like, just on a medical level, looking at it physiologically.
Well, that sounds odd to me. I have to investigate that.
Okay, so what makes you attracted to your women? Or to women in general?
How people... how people choose people. But I think, maybe take a break because we have a caller. And we're going to have to take this question in a moment here.
Okay.
So are we ready for this caller? Okay, hang on 1 second. Let me get my earphones on.
Okie dokie.
You there?
I am.
Hi, who is this?
This is Alexander Demetrius.
Hi, Alexander.
How have you been?
Hello. I
got to tell you, Alexander. I got to tell you one more. No more F words.
Right.
Okay. We got in trouble for that.
Yeah, keep it clean, Alexander.
Oh, absolutely. My apologies.
I love that you're calling in, though. For all of our callers and listeners, if you don't know Alexander by now, he's called in quite a few times. He's a highly intelligent person that always brings some great perspectives to the show. He's written a book. Again, Alexander, could you please say the name of your book?
The Reward of Not Knowing.
And that was really influenced by Joseph Campbell's work on the hero's journey. So people who are just tuning in now, you can go to the website, onto the Doc and Dukov show, and you can look at the history of what we've done, and you can hear Alexander's past contributions to our show. What you calling about today?
I want to contribute Carl Jung's idea of the reason for attraction to our counterparts.
Love it. I love Carl Jung. Okay, go for it.
So I think it's Plato who said the soul is a circle, and you have the ego self. That's the part that deals with the everyday reality that we experience when we are in waking consciousness. And then you have the shadow self. And the shadow, you don't know what's in there until you experience it by way of a projection. So every child at birth, their first experience is of the mother.
The caregivers.
Correct. And so the father's merely a secondary counterpart that comes into play later, but everything is built on mother. And so that becomes the basis for what the male is going to find attractive. And I've seen it in my own life where the women that I've attracted, whether it was personality or a look or a certain hair color.
Reminded you of your mom?
Oh, totally. And I'll never forget, I had the opportunity to speak to a couple that was married 55 years.
Beautiful.
And it was wonderful what they said. He treated her like gold, and he was so endearing to her.
Yeah.
And she said, in this stage of our life, we both realized that I married my father, and he married his mother.
Wow. Wow, I'd be really interested to see in a research study of anybody married over 50 years that has that kind of success story, if they also feel the same way. That'd be really interesting.
I think it's also interesting. Sometimes you see people that married for a long time, and they look exactly the same.
Yeah, they get to look like each other. And people and their dogs also.
That's their dogs, yeah.
I think what we're talking about here is why we are attracted to things, to people, to other essences that walk around in life, It's not just I mean, thank you so much for bringing in the whole deeper psychological roots to this, because it's really not just what meets the eye. It's not just because somebody's hot. It's not just because somebody has a good job. So multidimensional. And Alexander, to touch on the note that you had mentioned, I also had the pleasure of meeting a couple that had been married for 60 years. I actually did an article at the Signal newspaper when I worked there about this couple celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. And they had married right out of high school. They were high school sweethearts. And they were sitting there holding hands. And I was like, man, give me the secret. I'm going to write this down right now. Like, what is it? And you know what they said? They just kept holding hands. She looked at him and she looked at me and she went, I just let him be who he is. And he looked at her and he went, I listen. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Really sweet.
That is it. So, maybe they were lucky enough at 18 that their pheromones bonded.
That's right.
But everything else came into play after that. But for you, Alexander, what about today's topic on a physiological level have you found makes sense to you in your life? Like if you look back on who you've been attracted to, what do you know about pheromones?
Oh my gosh.
How do the pheromones talk to you?
It's definitely body chemistry, and I know it instinctually. I stumbled about figuring it out when I was younger, like everyone does. But for me, the chemistry of the individual is beyond looks, because I go for somebody, I'm attracted to somebody's character and mind, and everything else follows.
Right.
So for me, I've had the pleasure to share the company of some really beautiful women with really bad attitudes, and some really just humble, kind, compassionate women that gave me the most satisfying days and nights of my life. And what I can also say in that same thing, because there's another side to that, is all the women that I had bad attitudes were reflections of me at one time.
No swearing, Alexander.
Oh my God.
Got to get your chemical reactions in check. Just kidding.
Yeah. So all those individuals who had those bad attitudes were really just reflecting my own attitude that I was projecting onto somebody else,
and
I could not see it. And until I finally dated somebody who was the embodiment of what I was given the opportunity to either evolve out of or stay in.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. So maybe chemically there's some kind of, what do you think, Dr. Jenkins? Is there some kind of collaboration that on a chemical level, whatever you're giving off, the other person's going to give off? It's like a mirroring effect?
Yeah, they have to have a receiver for you. They have to see you, smell you, watch you, and then they'll see if there's a way that can match up. If they have completely opposite looks, feelings, smells, actions, skin tone,
right,
and you don't like it, then you're not going to be attracted.
So basically the magic recipe, I think a lot of people are more attracted to the mind than the body. The body fades, sex can only go so far.
I can tell you about that, yeah.
Not sex, the actual act of it, but I mean just like sex appeal, like you looking at somebody and being attracted to them. Beauty is physical, it fades, right? So what keeps people going, and I think that magical recipe is if your chemical components on a physiological level connect, but then the mind also, the intellectual stimulation is there, and the emotional, the personality-driven components of the person fit with yours. It's like teeth in a comb. You guys have to kind of fit together in the grooves where you have a void, I can fill. Where I have a void, you can fill. And that's a beautiful thing that our chemicals know before we do, I think.
And since we're talking about flirting, I wonder if flirting is age-specific.
No.
So if you're 18, you flirt?
No, I flirted all my life.
78, you don't flirt?
Yeah.
No, I've been the biggest flirt as long as I can remember.
88, you still don't flirt anymore? I mean, I wonder when it turns off, if it does.
My grandpa was a big flirt as well. Like I remember after my grandmother passed away, who I never knew. She passed away before I was born. He had like 3 different wives after that, and he was in his 80s, like a stud. I mean, I think it just comes down to the person. the individual. I don't know. Maybe that's a chemical thing as well.
Right.
But yeah, I think we're all looking for that magic component, and I think today it's really about honing in on the fact that it's not just what you see. There's a lot of stuff going on a very basic level inside of us that connects before we get there, before we even say that first verbal, hey, so what's your sign? You know, like we're late to the game, actually.
It's almost like one of those horror movies where, you know, the wolves or the vampires, somebody walks in that's not like them, they have a pheromone action.
They can sense it.
They can have it. So I think the people are the same way.
You can absolutely sense when you can smell somebody.
Totally.
There's this.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Alexander.
I just go ahead. I lost my train of thought. I just had
well, we were talking about you can smell people. You can sense when somebody in the room is either kin to you, maybe they're the same kind of animal. You know, we call it animal instinct.
That's what I wanted to say. I'm in it at an, if I may, at an interesting crossroads in my life, because I definitely have a history of being totally in the chemical element when it comes to attracting mates. But as I start evolving and turning some of these energies back on myself, it's transforming me into more of a compassionate fellow. And now that I'm 42, I also don't feel that nagging urgency to procreate.
Your needs have changed.
Right. And so now despite the chemical attraction that I'm still feeling, I'm being very responsible with whom I open up to, because it's not you're right. In the simplest terms, my needs have changed.
Right, and you know what? That's what separates us from the animals right now that are only scenting out, you know, their mate in the animal kingdom. Like, what separates us is our ability to temper those drives and evolve through them through our lifetime, where it becomes less about spreading that that seed into the environment to procreate, but more so about being connected and on a spiritual level, on a deeper level. We're on a very high level of cognition as human beings. So, you know, there are certain animals you see out there in the animal kingdom that may actually be just like us when you see them and they mate with that one other penguin or that one other lobster. They find their lobster, they find their penguin. Maybe they're actually just as evolved in the way that we're talking about right now, because you are supposed to evolve past this baser need to spread that seed. Oh my gosh, that rhymes.
Right.
But
you're a poet and don't realize
the baser need to spread the seed.
There's very few monogamous animals. And birds are one of them, one group of them.
Well, what's our relation to birds?
We don't. We'll have 2 more minutes. We'll figure it out in the next.
Are we monogamous? Oh, that's another show.
But most animals are not monogamous. They whenever the season's right, whenever you have rooting season,
right,
or whatever, mating season, whatever you call it, their job is to go out and find a mate.
Find that mate. So, and what we were discussing is that anthropological, aspect of why we still. And it's still very strong in us. It's still very alive in us. The drive to find that mate is still the same at the basic roots as it used to be when we were in the caves, which are that woman will look for the man that is going to be the strongest provider. The man looks for the woman who's going to be the best kind of mother for his children. He actually bases on a very basic level off of this energy she gives off from her pheromones, this chemical that she exudes that smells good to him, that feels nurturing, that feels warm, it feels like, the home and the hearth. And if you look back in that day and age, the men were always out hunting. The women were the community. They were home with the kids, the home and the hearth. They did everything, right? So I don't think we're that far out of the jungle where our basic needs still operate on that level. But now that we're evolved in society, we actually we're becoming more equal as male and female. Female are now hunters. Males can stay home in the home and hearth with the kids sometimes. And, we're coming into this place in an evolution of understanding maybe the androgyny of the very chemicals that we are made up of.
About, yeah.
You know, without the whole caveman clubbing us over the head thing.
You know, there was a Star Trek where remember Spock. He was the scientist Spock.
Love Spock.
And he had the mating urge once.
Ooh,
And
I think I remember that.
He left the ship and did all kind of crazy things. And as soon as he made it, he was back to normal. As normal as he was.
See, he just got the urge out. And I think Alexander was saying that earlier. He kind of got the rocks off, and now he's, you know,
he went someplace
coming into a new place.
Another Vulcan did their finger thing, you know. And
well, oh my God, what finger thing are we talking about right now? Maybe we should go to break
one of those things,
before we get into Vulcan finger things and getting the rocks off. Okay, so if you guys are listening and you want to call in, we're at KHTS 1220. That's 661-298-5487, 298-KHTS, and we'll see you after the break. Hi. Okay, so we're back. If you guys want to call in, again, this is 661-298-5487. We're talking about the physiology of flirting and how there's a whole different level of communication going on under the surface than the one you think you're having with the person you think is hot. So if you're interested, give us a call. We've got a few minutes left of the show. I wanted to bring up one other component in a research study that had been done about why we're attracted to each other. Kindness and personality, as I mentioned earlier, were actually done in a sample of people in a research study in 2014 that found that positive personality traits actually increase perceived facial attractiveness. The researchers asked 120 participants to rate 60 photographs of female faces in neutral expression. So these photographs were done with people that were not smiling, and then the research participants were given pictures of people that were smiling. And most people rated the pictures of people that were smiling as more attractive. And I think in our real lives, outside of the lab, this is so true. Like, I'm more attracted to people that are just light in personality and you know, they seem open and receptive and warm, and I'm not interested in somebody that feels dark and heavy. Like, what about you? Maybe it's a different phase of life that you have to be in or something.
Well,
but
you know, the last time I thought about this is when I was a prehistoric guy.
Right, a caveman?
Caveman, and you know, at that time, we just wanted to, you know, catch the cow so the family could eat. And, you know, that's when the women were looking for a different type of big club. You know, not the kind that we have, but the kind that they have, they can protect the family.
Either one, you can club me over the head, you know.
I think so. I'm on a different stage than you are, so just tell me about yours.
Oh, about my what?
You know, your clubbing.
I don't have a club.
Clubbing, you know, the night clubbing.
Oh, the clubs. Okay, well,
I was talking about a billy club.
I've always been maybe ahead of my time in a way, where I was never just driven by the chemical, like I need to get rocks off kind of vibe. And I never just went for a guy that was hot. I was always attracted to the mind, and actually that baser level that we're talking about, that scent that gets given off, I was always very highly aware of it. Like, I have an in-tune sense of smell, I think, regarding, like, you know, what animal is like mine. So, you know, I think that that's just always been me. And that's what I'm trying to raise awareness of in this particular show, is this idea that if you can also get in tune with who you're gelling with on a very chemical level out there at the bar, then you won't just be sitting there going, oh my God, is my hair okay? Like, is he into me? I'm not sure. Oh, is she looking my direction? Because it happens to be so much more than that, and on a deeper level can help us understand ourselves. So, you know, have you ever had these questions kind of come into your office?
No.
No. People just come to you for the medical?
The medical, yeah.
No, you told me last week that there was a girl that came in that had a really interesting issue regarding how to pay her rent with the job she was doing sexually.
Oh, yeah, she was just, she was working day by day or night by night to pay her rent.
So you could actually help, you know, some people that come into you regarding, like, if they're depressed, maybe it's because they don't have that relationship and they talk to you about it. You've told me stories like,
well, which is a bigger need, a place to sleep, or something else.
Or somebody to sleep with.
This woman, she had no place to sleep, and, you know, working night by night to try to make money.
Okay. So it had nothing to do with you helping her on a physiological level to understand her.
No.
And I think understand herself better.
At that state, they're more of a desperate.
Oh, well, see, but that's where you bring them in too. I know you don't like desperate people. No, but see, I don't like the word desperate either. I think that we're all at different levels of understanding ourselves. So as long as you're on the quest.
Yeah, but maybe her background is different than us, then most likely it is.
Okay. Well, let's wrap this up here. We have
Okay.
like a minute left. I just, let's go out with this idea that there are certain things that attract us as males and females to each other. But really, I think we've posed a good question today that these chemical reactions are more androgynous than anything else because it comes down to
They're all biological.
genetics.
Right.
We pick people based on what we feel is going to make our offspring healthy. You know,
And we're programmed with what we like. And even though we expose to other things, we know what we like until we see it or hear it, smell it,
Right.
taste it.
we're very sensual creatures. We do operate off scent and touch and taste and all of that. So I guess bottom line is we are not that far out of the jungle, but it's nice to be walking upright, huh?
Yeah.
So thanks so much for having this time for this physiological flirting aspect of human nature.
Yeah.
I liked the topic today. And so if you guys wanted to tune in for next time, just know that our number is 661-298-5487. Thanks so much for
Thank
listening.
you. See you next
Bye.
time. Bye-bye.